with yours, is it more like you kind of have a loose idea, or is it pretty nailed down?
No, it's pretty loose because things never turn out looking like you see them in your head,
Yeah,
right? They're
right.
never they're never as good as what I imagine it turning out to be. So yeah, it's got to be loose because I have to give myself, some wiggle room.
Welcome to Creative Type Podcast. This is episode 17. How do you begin your paintings? I'm Lori Rivera.
And I'm Jamie Haney.
Welcome to Creative Type Podcast.
Hello.
Hello. That's like
Hi.
your thing. That's like your thing now. You always go,
I,
hello.
I know I can't stop. Hello. All right. What are we talking about today?
We thought we would talk about how we start our paintings. And
Yeah.
this is not an instructional podcast at all. We're not telling you how you should start your paintings. We're just going to talk about how we start our paintings. And
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you'll get some ideas,
Oh
but
yeah,
this
I'm always
isn't,
looking for ideas. I can't wait
yeah,
to hear how you start yours.
yeah.
I don't think we've ever talked about that.
I don't think so either.
Even just among as friends, I don't think we've
Yeah.
talked about that. And I've seen you
Yeah.
paint, but I don't know that I've ever really paid attention or asked you. So
Right.
this ought to be interesting. This will be
Yeah.
good.
Would you want to
Okay.
start first? Do you want to talk
No.
about,
No, I want you to start.
well, really, how I start my paintings depends on what kind of painting I'm doing.
All right. So what are we going to talk about? Abstracts or the others?
I think both.
Okay. So which one are you going to start with? I guess is what I meant.
I guess my abstract ones
Okay, that's
because
what I'm really interested in finding
that's
out. How
yeah,
you
well,
start those.
and actually there's no rhyme or reason to how I start them.
Oh,
Really.
I knew it.
It's all what would you
Intuitive?
say? It's all
Yeah.
intuitive. Like I kind of just start laying down color
Okay.
and whatever ends up appearing, whether shapes or whatever. Usually I do a lot of shapes, paint
Yeah.
a lot of shapes recently anyway in my abstract.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But I've noticed a pattern in your shapes. Like you tend to do a lot of the same shapes,
yeah,
at
it's
least in
like
the last,
triangles are my big thing now.
Yes, I've noticed that too. It is
Yeah,
kind of leaning more geometric lately. Whereas,
yeah,
like the paintings that I remember you doing, like in that show at the college, they were
right.
much more organic looking. And one's not better
Yeah,
than the other. I like them both. But
they're
I
just
have
different.
noticed, yeah, yours has taken on more of a geometric
Yeah,
flair.
yeah. So
Flair.
I guess I've kind of inadvertently started a new series. I guess kind
Oh
of
yeah, there you go.
maybe.
So do you
Yeah,
start with I think we have talked about this before, so I know the answer to this, but how do you deal with a white canvas?
yeah. I don't deal with a white canvas.
I knew you didn't.
I know you know that. Yeah. So I cannot stand looking at a white canvas at all. Not only that, like I find that especially like in some parts of your painting, like let's say you're painting an abstract, in some parts you might have like 7 layers of paint, and others you might just have one or two. And I like to make sure I tone my canvas before I do anything else. So I paint it a solid color, usually burnt sienna, just because it's a good mid-tone. Um, but I also find that doing a toning layer prevents like little white specks from showing up in my painting. Like if
Right,
the
right.
layers are thinner in one area, so
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And sometimes
yeah,
those little white pieces to me, and I hope I don't offend anybody here, but they kind of look amateurish, don't they? Because that's how I notice some of my beginning paintings. You see little
mhm,
specks of white, and it could be the canvas is rough texture, and
right,
you're using the paint too thinly, you're too stingy with your paint. Especially this
yeah,
happens with new artists a lot, I think. So that's
right,
a good way to stop that is to tone your canvas a whole solid color so it's not white. That's a great
yeah,
idea. Yeah. And
yeah,
I went through a phase of doing that too. And I still
mhm,
do that in a lot of cases. Not all the time though.
mhm,
Not
yeah.
all the time.
I pretty
So
much have
what
made
else?
it a habit.
Yeah. Do you always use the same color?
Pretty much, yeah, just to keep
Yeah.
things simple.
Okay. Yeah,
I
that's
have
good.
I have used other colors before. Like one of my abstracts, I used like a magenta. It almost looked like a hot pink.
Ooh,
as the
yeah.
background. But
Yeah.
I find that, if I'm putting on if I'm painting several layers, it really doesn't matter what
It
the
doesn't matter. So
toning
use the
layer.
cheapest paint you got.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Yeah, well, if
Right.
you're not going to see it. So, well, let me ask you this. When you tone your canvas, that burnt sienna, is that the color you chose usually?
Yeah.
So, and when you did it this magenta color, did it affect you differently? Like magenta, that's a pretty intense color.
Oh
So,
yeah.
was that distracting? Did that influence your painting? That how where what you how you started next?
I never really thought about it that way, but now that you bring it up, I guess it feels more natural to paint with the burnt sienna as the toning
Okay.
layer. It's not
Natural as in
like,
because that's a natural color or
well, maybe what you were saying, just like because the magenta is so intense,
yeah.
maybe it was distracting a little
Yeah.
bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I can see how that would be really distracting. And
right.
it would and I think it would like make me go in a certain direction. I think if I were doing
Mm,
my abstracts that way,
yeah,
I would tend to probably stay in that same family of colors.
right.
Maybe even.
Right. Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
trying to
don't know.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which painting it was that I used hot pink under. I can't remember. Oh, no, I do remember. And the colors in that painting, I guess in the end weren't that terribly different than my other
What you
ones.
started with? Or
Yeah.
oh, just
So,
any
so
painting that you do with a
yeah,
cyan. Okay.
yeah. Of course, I put more than one layer on there, of course. There
Yeah.
might be several layers,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
So after you tone your canvas, how do you actually start? What are you tell tell us what you do?
Well, I usually just well gosh, it's really hard to explain actually.
We need to
It
do live
really is.
demos.
Yeah, which I have some videos on my YouTube channel. I think I do. Uh where I start
Well,
off a
wait,
painting.
what's your YouTube channel?
It's just Lori Rivera Fine Art, and I don't remember
Okay.
the actual URL. I think it's Lori Rivera Fine Art and then some number at the end.
Okay.
Because
Well,
I
we
think
can
it
add
didn't
that in the
because
mentions.
didn't YouTube change the way they do their
Yeah, because
settings
it used
on
to
their
be a whole
URLs?
bunch of numbers. Yeah, it used to be a bunch of
Yeah.
numbers, and I think
Yeah.
maybe it is still, but you have to choose to go in there and change it, like to Lori Rivera Fine Art or whatever.
Right. And
All
for a
right.
while you had to have a certain number of subscribers before you could change it.
That's right. I think it was
I
like
don't know if it's
10,000,
still,
wasn't it?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know.
it's not. They did change that because I
But
changed mine and I got like 6 followers.
oh,
I
yeah.
don't have hardly any.
We don't really
I
put
would,
enough time into YouTube.
no, but I keep thinking I would like to,
Me
because
too.
it's a way to get away from Facebook and Instagram, and plus it lasts longer, I
Right.
think, than
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram is just a flash in the pan.
Oh yeah, it
Whereas,
does. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think that would be good. So I'll put that in the show notes. We'll mention your YouTube channel
Okay.
and maybe mine too. Mine,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
you
wouldn't
should.
mind having some more views on there,
Right.
but
But
yeah,
yeah, as for oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was just saying, I just think that is that's good to
Yeah.
keep going. I lost my
Yeah.
train of thought.
No, but when I begin an abstract painting, I just start grabbing whatever color feels right to me. Like
Okay.
you said,
Are you thinking of
intuitively.
anything? Oh, okay. So you're not thinking really. It's
I'm
just
usually listening to music,
okay.
so
Okay.
I'm kind of
Oh, that's
focusing
yeah.
on, and I usually don't listen, not all the time. I usually don't pay attention to the words and the
Yeah.
music I'm listening to. Well, a
Hmm.
lot of times I listen to jazz music while I'm painting, and a lot of it doesn't
Yeah.
have words anyway, but
Yeah, I knew you did. And
usually
then you
I'm
went through a show tunes
yeah,
period there for a little
I'm
bit.
still
Yeah.
in that. I'm
Oh, are
still in
you?
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cats. I've been hooked on
Oh, are
cats
you?
lately.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So, I just start laying down color and yeah,
Oh,
it just
okay.
kind of evolves.
And then uh, the painting, one stroke leads to the next, and
Yeah.
one shape dictate the next. And
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty much.
okay. So let's talk about your representational. So how would you start your painting that way?
Yeah, with representational paintings, once again, I tone the canvas first, usually in
Okay.
burnt sienna, well,
Hmm.
pretty much all the time. And then uh if I'm doing, I have the tendency to center things if it's just one subject. then
Okay.
I'll center it on the canvas,
Okay.
or wood or whatever I'm painting on. And I usually, sometimes I draw it out with the pencil first. Other
Mhm.
times I just use the paint to
Right. To
draw it
sketch it with
out.
the paint. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth. It's
Yeah.
probably better to do it. Well, I wouldn't say better. It might be better just to do it with the paint, you know.
Yeah. Because then you don't have to worry about those
Yeah,
lines showing through.
yeah, probably so. For that reason alone, yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably
Unless
better
that's the
just to do it
look
with
you're
the
going
paint.
for.
Right, right. If I do it in pencil, I make sure I try, to make sure all the pencil is covered up though.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I don't think that looks great if the pencil is
Right. Yeah. I don't
showing
care for
through.
that either.
Unless, like you said, unless you're going for that look, you know.
Intentional. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I just kind of, sometimes I do my values in the burnt sienna. Like
Oh, okay.
I'll
Hmm.
block in, the darker parts and the lighter
Yeah.
parts. And yeah.
Oh, that's efficient. That's good. So, do you have, like, if you're doing a portrait, what's the first thing you paint on a portrait?
Oh gosh. You know, what do I do first? I've done it both ways. Like I've done like the skin tone first before.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I've painted the skin tone. And
Uh-huh.
then I've also done it the opposite where I focus on the eyes first.
That's what I was going to say. I usually go
Yeah.
straight for the eyes. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people do because it's just what everyone looks at, it's the
Right.
window to the soul.
Kind of the focal point of the painting is the
Yeah,
eyes, I
yeah. Oh, for
guess.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. We just
Yeah,
have
I
a
agree.
natural desire to
Yeah,
look at the eyes, I think.
right. Yeah, as humans, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then if you were, I guess you center, when you're talking about centering things, you're talking about maybe a still life or something
Yeah.
that is not necessarily a portrait, but you probably, I'm thinking of all your portraits, and most of those are centered as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
you like
Yeah.
symmetry and
Well,
stuff like that.
that's the funny thing. I normally like asymmetrical things, like houses, for example.
Yeah.
I love asymmetrical houses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. I think that excuse me, that I do center a lot of my
Yeah.
paintings because I really am drawn to asymmetrical things.
That's funny.
So,
See, I'm drawn to asymmetrical as well.
yeah.
I mean, I even do my hair asymmetrically. I notice yours is not. Yours is symmetric,
Well,
symmetrical.
my part is
And
about
maybe
right here.
slightly off. I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks kind of straight. When I'm trying to think of how I normally see it, it's always kind of back. But
Yeah.
that's funny. That's funny how that changes when what makes you start it
Yeah.
out in the center if you
I don't
like
know.
asymmetry?
I don't know.
Because
Well,
I like it heavy on the asymmetry side.
yeah. I'm not even
That's interesting.
sure. It's
Huh.
just a habit, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they always turn out good. So I guess it's a good habit.
Thank you.
All right. So I guess I'll say how I start out. I'd like to say that I start mine out intuitively. And I thought for the longest time I do, but then I think about it. And if I'm sitting there with a blank canvas, then if I don't have a plan, then a lot of times those paintings, they don't work out so well. I've
Oh.
noticed. So I at least have to have an idea, like in my mind's eye, of where I want this to go. And
Mhm.
then as I get going in it, then it turns into more intuitive, like I guess not necessarily strokes, but shapes,
Mhm.
colors, and but I always have kind of the end most of the time, not 100% of the time, but most of the time I have an idea of a completed painting before I even start it.
Okay,
You
so is
ever
it
do
more of
that?
like yeah, I do sometimes,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, usually I do have some kind of plan in mind if it's a
Hmm.
still life or a portrait or something like that.
Uh-huh.
My abstracts, I don't, but
Yeah, right, right.
with objective paintings, I do. So with yours, is it more like you kind of have a loose idea or is it pretty nailed down?
No, it's pretty loose because things never turn out looking like you see them in your head,
Yeah,
right?
right.
They're never as good as what I imagine it turning out to be. So yeah, it's got to be loose because I have to give myself, some wiggle room there to screw it up and to try to redo it. But so I guess sometimes I'll tone, but sometimes I forget to tone. I mean to tone them. And matter of fact, I went through a stage
Yeah.
where I toned all my canvases, so I had all these like orangey type canvases looking at
Oh,
me.
you use orange.
I used not an orange, it was like a mustardy color. Um, I don't even know why I picked that. But now, and then I went through a phase of making everything kind of this scumbled gray with
Uh-huh.
like, it was like white and ultramarine blue and some some red. I can't remember what it was. But I now I don't like doing that. So, but sometimes I'm so excited to paint something that I just start
Yeah.
was sketching on the white canvas, and I thought, oh shit, I should have. This would have been a lot easier if I had some color
You're just ready
underneath
to go.
there. I'm ready to go. Yes, and so you do combat because I do not like to paint real thick. I know that Vicky, she likes to have that
Oh
texture.
yeah.
I'm not a fan so much of the texture. I just don't like it. I like to achieve the texture, I think, optically. So
I
you
think I
can,
paint more like you, especially if
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
if an objective painting. I'm more like that too, I
yeah.
think.
And I'm really starting to uh, like painting on a hard surface. Like I paint in canvas most
Oh,
of the
uh-huh.
time. And so lately I've been painting on my hardboard, masonite. And I
Yeah.
really like that so much better because I can get a nice smooth, I'm not fighting those little divots that are in the canvas. Because, yeah, I'm lazy. I don't gesso my canvases again. They're pre-gessoed. So I don't usually gesso them again. And you could get a much finer, smoother surface if you did do that, but who's got time for that shit?
Hmm.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have time for
Right.
that. So I'll just take my masonite and I'll put two thin coats of gesso on there, and by doing that, if you don't thin your gesso down enough, that does give a little texture on there, and that's
Yeah.
kind of come back and bit me before. I wasn't happy with that, but you learn as you go each time. Each painting teaches me a little bit of a lesson, I think.
Yeah, I think
And
so
but it's
too.
just whether or not I can remember that lesson. That's the problem. Sometimes I go, "Oh man, I learned that before," but obviously it
Right.
did not stick.
Right. You
So,
mentioned the hardboard panels.
mhm.
Uh, I find too, if it's easier to get a more realistic, not that my paintings are realistic, because I don't think they're realistic at all, but like you can achieve more of a realistic look on those hardboard panels because it's so smooth.
But yeah, I agree. And you can get more details in there for sure.
Yeah.
Whereas that rough canvas stops you from being able to, I mean, sometimes it's just not physically able because you got those little divots, and that just drives me insane sometimes to
Yeah.
see that. At first I used to like it, but now I see that little weave pattern. If you rake your brush across the canvas, and you can kind of see that little waffle. Oh, I can't stand that anymore. I used to
Oh,
like
yeah.
it, but now I'm like, oh, it's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
So when I do representational, well, I guess it's kind of the same. Whenever I do a representational piece, I'm like you. If I don't sketch it out, then I usually screw it up. So I'll sketch it out, but I don't like to use pencil because that's too hard to get rid of. So I'll use charcoal. That's my go-to, or a
Mm.
pastel pencil.
Okay, I've never used charcoal
Oh,
before.
you haven't?
I've
You
used
have?
it to draw with on paper,
Uh-huh.
like that's my end result is a charcoal painting, but I've
Mm-hmm.
never done a sketch and for a
Yeah.
painting
Well,
charcoal.
you have to be really light with it. You have to be really careful, actually, because that can just bleed into your colors and it can muddy your
Hmm.
colors. And I also use white chalk a lot. Like
Oh,
if
I've
I,
used white chalk before too.
yeah,
I forgot about that.
yeah, white
Yeah.
chalk and oh, and also pastel pencil, like for black. But still, it's like the charcoal. The charcoal's kind of bad about it though. But I do tend to because it's just so easy to make a mark with the
Hmm.
charcoal. So I will sketch that out. Now I have found that the looser the sketch, because that stuff gets painted over and you lose it anyway. So
Hmm.
I used to in the beginning, I would have these elaborate drawings
Oh
under
yeah.
my under my canvas, and I think that was stifling me. It was making me too tight, and
Right.
I did loosen up with that. And I found that if I can just get the basic shapes on there on the bottom, then I think then the intuitive part takes over. If you want
Yeah.
to, oh, I want to add some flowers over here, or I'm going to do this to that, it just gives you much more options. Once I have that base initially down, then I can play around with it more intuitively.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think happens. And sometimes, you just go in and let your painting sit a while and you come back to it and you're like, ugh, what was that?
Right.
What was that? And other times that like you leave frustrated and you come back and you're like, hey, that isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
That's how I'm from day to day, it
yeah.
seems like.
Yeah. Oh God, me too. Well, when I came down to finish this painting, I didn't get it finished, but when I came back and looked at it, I'm like, ugh, I don't like that at all anymore. It was all too monotone, too much of the same color. So I had to get some more contrast in there, and I did. I can see it
Yeah.
behind me. I don't know if you can see it, but
I
that
can see
dark.
that dark color now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that was all kind of that was really cool looking background, but it was just too much of the same. So I painted over
Oh,
it. Oh well, that's the way it goes, right? It's just paint.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, this has been fun. Hopefully, we'll hear from some listeners about how they start their paintings.
Yeah. Oh, and I
Yeah.
want to interject with something real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
We're thinking about doing a podcast on movies, like docudramas and documentaries about artists.
Yeah. And it doesn't even
So,
have to be a made up, I mean, it doesn't
right.
have to be a docudrama. It could be a made up show.
Yeah.
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 Made up characters and all that.
Yeah. We're thinking
We're
about
not
having
just
a,
not limited
right.
to anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys have any ideas, if you've seen a movie with about an artist, send it our way and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're compiling a list. And this idea was brought to my attention. What came actually, of my husband's cousin said, told me that she listens to the podcast. Hey, Angelina. She's up near Chicago. And she said that she loves the podcast. So thank you for that. And then she said, hey, I've got a suggestion for you. You need to watch this movie. And I think it was Midnight in Paris, is what it was. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And she said she thought that I would really like it. And I think that I have seen bits and pieces of it, or at least I know that I've seen previews to it. I don't know that I've actually watched it, but it spawned on an idea. Hey, that'd be great podcast to share different movies because I'm always intrigued with movies that's got artists in it,
Oh,
aren't
me
you?
too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
So
love
I
them.
thought this will take a little while to get some ideas. We're hoping to get you guys' ideas as well to to tell us what you've seen or if you've heard of one like Art Juice. They talked about this one. Sometimes they'll talk about movies that they've seen or books they've read. And there's one I've never been able to find it because I can't remember exactly what it was called. Something like The Yellow House or something similar to that. And it was, I want to say it had something to do with Van Gogh, but I'm not positive on that. But I've always looked for that one. It's a movie, and she just raved about it. And now I can't even find the episode to go back and listen.
Oh,
You know
no.
how that
Yeah.
is. But maybe I'll run across it. Maybe a listener knows what I'm talking about. So, and then I heard there's one called, I think it's called Letters to Theo, and that's where he's writing to his brother. Do
Oh,
you know what I'm
okay.
talking
No,
about?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, well, okay. So we'll have to get our list going. So
Yeah.
if you're listening, please email us at creativetypepodcast@gmail.com. Give us your suggestions for movies, and you don't have to have watched these movies. We're not looking for reviews necessarily, unless you want to give one. But if you just know of some, because we're on the lookout for them, and we just like to share that. We thought that'd be kind of a lighthearted and fun episode, and that'll be a few episodes ahead, along with some of our what are we going to call these episodes when we have our friends join us? They're not necessarily going to be interviews. They're just going to be
Yeah.
joining us for more conversation.
A
We'll have
chat
to
with Vicky Wilson.
a chat with Vicky Wilson, yeah,
A
and whoever,
conversation with
yeah,
Vicky Wilson.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know. We'll
I
have to
don't
think
know.
of something.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with something. And
Maybe we
oh
can
yeah, and
take
if
the thing that was talked about the most, maybe incorporate that somehow.
right, right.
I don't
Well,
know.
and if anybody is listening that's got a better idea than that, shoot us that too. We'll give you
Yeah.
credit for it. But if you do email us with your ideas, we'll give you a shout out. So make sure you leave your first and last name. We'll give you a shout out on the podcast for helping us with that. So I guess we're kind of wrapping it up. It's a little shorter one today. I think it was interesting though, because it's always
Yeah.
interesting. I love to watch other artists paint,
Oh,
and
I do too.
it's so interesting to find out how you started your paintings there, Lori.
Yours
And
too.
oh, thanks. So don't forget that we've got aprons and tote bags with the logo on it. It's not Creative Type Podcast, but it's Creative Type Artist. So go and purchase one, help support the show. We'd appreciate it. If you'd like to get a full shout out with a link to your website and everything, write us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast at, and we will be more than happy to do that for you. We
Yes.
appreciate all the likes and everything. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, where you can watch us actually have our conversations, and and we each have our own links to our websites as well at the bottom. And we have on as far as purchasing the aprons and the tote bags, I have set up a link tree account on the Instagram. So if there's a real quick way, just find us on there and you can quickly purchase one there. And you know what? I haven't ordered one yet. Have you ordered
No,
yours
I
yet, Lori?
haven't. I need to.
I think I'm going to get the tote bag because I've got several aprons
Okay.
already.
I'll
Plus,
probably get an apron. I don't have an apron.
oh yeah, okay. Well, you need the apron because you want to protect that cute shirt
Right.
you got on.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna get the tote bag because it's a big tote bag, and you can put canvases in there. That'd be good to like
Oh
when we're
yeah.
changing out our art at Jennings, which I need to do desperately.
Yeah.
So I think that would be good because it's a nice size tote bag. Anyway, this has been fun and interesting.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have some more good topics to talk about, and hopefully you'll send in your ideas. And I guess we're off and out of here for now. Thanks so much for listening,
Thank you.
and we'll see you then. Bye, Lori.
Bye-bye.